Welcome to Hannity Tonight. This is a Fox News alert. We are following three major breaking news stories. According to the National Weather Service, Texas, they're now bracing for up to 20 inches of additional rainfall after this historic and catastrophic flooding. Now, this is President Trump is now promising 100% support and the rapid deployment of federal aid to help those devastated areas in Texas and also now in Louisiana. Our reporters are on the ground tonight in the Lone Star State. Then, radical leftists, Antifa protesters savagely beating nonviolent protesters over the weekend, this time Berkeley, California. So when are the Democrats in this country going to condemn this out-of-control left-wing hate and violence? Also, the president defends his decision to pardon former Sheriff Joe Arpaio as Democrats in the liberal media feign moral outrage. Tonight, right here, we will expose the left wing's massive double standard when it comes to presidential pardons. That is tonight's important opening monologue. I want to start tonight by sending our many thoughts and prayers to our fellow Americans down in Texas. They are dealing with unprecedented flooding and, of course, widespread devastation. Now, according to estimates, 9 trillion gallons of water have already been dumped on the area, and some parts could see a total of 50 inches of rain by this time the storm is over later in the week. So the people in Texas and Louisiana need to take all the necessary precautions because things are going to get worse. Not if, they will. Now, while that region braces for even more flooding, we have to recognize the efforts of the Trump administration, the governor of Texas, the lieutenant governor, charities, and frankly, everyday citizens who have been unbelievably inspiring and amazing, the people that have done their best to prevent what could have been a widespread tragedy. Now, to overcome any type of natural disaster, you really need 3 components. Think about this. It really starts on the ground, doesn't it? Neighbors helping neighbors. We saw that all weekend long. Then you need local, state governments to respond effectively. The governor and, well, with the one exception of the Houston mayor, they all did. They did their job. And finally, you also need, this is where the federal government needs to step in and assist these communities. Now, before Harvey hit, the Trump administration was prepared. They had 8,500 federal employees on the ground. Now they're assisting. And earlier today, President Trump pledged his full support to all of the many, many victims. Think how hard it is to buy your first home. Think of the blood, toil, sweat, and tears and effort, and to see it all washed away. Take a look at the president today.
To the people of Texas and Louisiana, we are 100% with you. We're praying for you. We're working closely with your leaders and officials. And I will be visiting the impact zone tomorrow to ensure that you're receiving full support and cooperation from the federal government.
Now, the president rightly will be traveling to Texas tomorrow to offer his support. Now, we're going to take you live on the ground in Houston in just a minute. Also tonight, radical leftist Antifa thugs attacked peaceful protesters at the rally yesterday in Berkeley, California. Now, take a look at this headline from the Washington Post. Black-clad Antifa members attack peaceful right-wing demonstrators in Berkeley. Now, according to the AP, at least 5 people were attacked, 13 people arrested, and this is just one of many, many examples of left-wing Antifa violence. So when are the Democrats in Washington, politicians, when is the media going to offer the same criticism and condemnation of this group? We'll have more later tonight. And finally, the Democrats, members of the mainstream media, they continue to feign moral outrage and yet expose what is a huge, massive double standard. The president is standing by his decision. I think it was the right one to pardon former Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio. After the president announced this on Friday night, he was pardoning Joe Arpaio, who was found guilty of criminal contempt for defying a judge's order on immigration enforcement. Well, the media in this country that will never give the president a fair shot went ballistic and apoplectic and politicized immediately the president's decision when we were just 2 hours away from a hurricane. Watch this.
We were talking about the notion of a Friday night news dump. Traditionally, when you talk about that, you think people are trying to hide information, try to reduce the coverage of it. So is it that, or is this the president trying to hijack the coverage of the hurricane.
This is the mother of all Friday night news dumps done during the hurricane, while the humanitarian questions still abound.
This monster storm, the president's first real domestic test since taking office. But overnight, instead of focusing on the storm, the president announced he'd pardoned a controversial sheriff in Arizona.
Why would the president want to divert even 1 minute of attention away from the flooding, away from the collapsed buildings in Rockport, away from the emergency on the coast of Texas?
We saw it earlier this week in Phoenix, because it's all about him.
Why? Because he was prepared. He was already coordinating with the governor, local officials on the ground, and sending help already. And by the way, on a night 2 hours before a hurricane, the whole country was paying attention. Now, the Destroy Trump media then went on to attack the former sheriff. Over 50 years in law enforcement. Watch this.
To most of us in the Latino community, to pardon Joel Arpaio, it is a slap in the face.
This particular president does not seem to understand either the constitutional premises that force us to look at how police conduct should be viewed in this country, or the separation of powers.
By pardoning Arpaio, President Trump is defending racism.
Back in Chicago, we'd say this is a good example of gangster politics. He's sending a signal to anybody who might want to snitch on him or testify against him that, hey, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to watch out for my people.
President Trump uses the vast pardon powers of the presidency, the first and only time so far, to pardon a guy who has been found by court to be guilty of being viciously racist.
This is obvious to Republicans and Democrats alike that this guy is a complete thug.
So
he doesn't respect the rule of law.
More bizarre liberal conspiracy theories. Now, after being attacked by the mainstream media, President Trump, he is standing by his decision to pardon a 50-year veteran in law enforcement, former Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Here's what he said earlier today. Take a look.
Sheriff Joe is a patriot. Sheriff Joe loves our country. Sheriff Joe protected our borders. And Sheriff Joe was very unfairly treated by the Obama administration, especially right before an election that he would have won. And he was elected many times. So I stand by my pardon of Sheriff Joe, and I think the people of Arizona who really know him best would agree with me.
Now, the president also highlighted the left's huge hypocrisy and massive double standard when it comes to presidents granting pardons and clemency. Now, if the media is so upset about Sheriff Arpaio, then they should be really outraged about what Presidents Clinton and Obama did. Let's go back to 2001 during his last day in office. Bill Clinton, remember, he pardoned Mark Rich, one of the biggest tax cheats in American history, who back in the early 1980s was convicted, on 51 counts of conspiracy, tax evasion, racketeering, trading with the enemy, which in this case happened to be Iran. Now, Rich eventually fled to Switzerland, where the government refused to extradite him back to the USA. He was on the FBI's most wanted list, but that did not stop Bill Clinton from giving him a pass. Now, this, of course, came after Rich's ex-wife. She donated $450 grand to the Clinton Library and over $1 million to Democratic campaigns. Clinton's money, quid pro quo, I'm shocked. Bill Clinton also offered clemency. Now, this is really important. To members of the terrorist group, the FALN, which claimed responsibility for over 100 bombings in major American cities that killed 5 people. You don't believe it? Look at this video. We haven't shown this to you in a couple of years. It's the FALN terrorists in the 1980s making bombs. And back in 1999, Bill Clinton offered clemency to 16 members of that group, the FALN, the people making bombs. Then you have President Barack Obama. He commuted the sentence of the notorious FALN member Oscar Lopez Rivera, who actually turned down Clinton's clemency deal. Now, in case Democrats, the media forgot on fake news CNN and NBC, Lopez Rivera, he was sentenced to 55 years in prison. Why? Seditious conspiracy to overthrow the United States government. And it's part of the group, the FALN. And, we just can't forget what they did here. And President Obama, he set a record for commutations, including by shortening the sentences of drug dealers. Yeah, people that want to sell drugs to your kids. We'll have more on that later tonight. But first, back to our top and our lead story and the horrendous flooding in Texas on the ground in Rosenberg, Texas. Steve Harrigan. Steve, you were amazing on Friday night. Thank you for being with us. I know you've been working around the clock, and I know the audience appreciates it. What's the latest there?
Thanks, Sean. We're just outside of Houston. You can see emergency vehicles behind me. They're there because a giant sinkhole has opened up, in part due to the tremendous amount of water that is pouring down. They're trying to block cars from trying to get on this road. 9 inches of rain here has fallen in just the past 24 hours alone. The conditions are getting worse and worse each hour. There were 7 different neighborhoods outside of Houston that had voluntary evacuations. Now those evacuations are mandatory. People are being told they have to leave as this water continues to rise, and there's real questions about the structural soundness of many small bridges. So there's concerns about how to get around when the very roads are falling apart. Right now, people are leaving. They're having to evacuate, and they're heading out of here as quickly as possible. Sean, back to you.
All right, Steve, if we can really quick, there was controversy over the mayor of Houston and his decision. In spite of the governor calling, he didn't take the governor's calls. The governor saying even if local authorities are saying to get out, he's saying stay in your homes and stay there. What's the latest on that controversy?
Sean, more and more neighborhoods are being told that if you don't leave now, law enforcement will not be able to rescue you. But imagine trying to leave in a situation like this right now with the rain pouring down, darkness, some roads flooded, some roads falling apart. When you see people around here, they are wet, cold, tired, and uncertain about where they're going to eat, where they're going to go. The shelters here, they need everything. They need doctors, they need baby formula, they need dry clothes. People are wet and confused, and to ask them to leave their homes now in the darkness, a very tough situation, Sean.
All right, Steve Harrigan, you've been amazing. I know you have not slept much, and 100-mile-an-hour gust the other night was scaring all of us here. We're glad you're safe. And our thoughts and prayers to all the people that are affected by this. Joining us now with more coverage of the devastating flooding, Matt Finn is with us. Matt, what's going on there?
Sean, there are so many heartbreaking and devastating scenes of destruction around Houston. We have just one of them to show you tonight. We watched as this neighborhood filled up with rising water. Entire families rescued by boats with young children shivering in the rain. These families had no idea where to go. They were shell-shocked as the water just engulfed their houses. One by one, they were rescued by boats. We would ask them, where are you going to go? They say, we don't know. We might go to the local high school. We might go to some type of shelter. And there was a young woman just a block right up here on higher ground who opened up her garage to the families and elderly people. One of those elderly couples still sitting here tonight waiting for a ride. I want to quickly introduce you to Angela. Angela, you opened up your home to these people. This has been your neighborhood for years. You say your heart is heavy tonight. How are you feeling?
Yeah, just it's heartbreaking to see so many people that have had to leave their homes that they've been in for, 20, 30, 40 years. And they've got, 7, 8, 10 feet of water in them, and they're rising overnight, and they've had to leave. They have nowhere to go. They're not sure where they're going, and it's heartbreaking. It really is.
Have you ever seen anything like this in Houston?
No, never. And no Houstonian has ever been prepared for anything like this. It's absolutely catastrophic, and
you might leave your home soon too as well, right?
Yes, I may have to leave my home soon, which is not settling very well with me. But it may have to be done, and that's fine. We will get through it. Houstonians are notorious for pulling through in catastrophic events because we work together, and not only Houstonians, but Texans in general. It's a very strong community and a very strong state, and we will get through this.
Angela, thank you very much, and we wish you very well.
Thank you.
Sean, this woman, a hero in the community in this neighborhood tonight, she opened up her garage to so many people, including an elderly couple that we're helping right now who's waiting for a ride. They have nowhere to go. There's no local family. Their car is underwater, and this scene is something you're seeing all over Houston. We've seen people being plucked from their rooftops. We saw a family yesterday leave their home and put their dog on a pool raft. And we said, where are you guys going? They said, we don't know, but we had to abandon our house. So, and as you can see, the rain continues to fall. Just saturating walls of rain continue to fall. And our forecasters are saying this could last for another day or two. And you say to yourself, where is all this water going? And it is ending up in neighborhoods like this. Sean, back to you.
All right, Matt, please send our love and prayers to all of them, and this country will help them, as we always do. Joining us now from the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston, where displaced storm victims are taking shelter, is Caroline Shively is with us. Caroline, I also know you have some guests there. What's going on there?
Yeah, Sean, they blew past what was supposed to be max capacity here hours ago. Take a look. The people are still coming. 5,000 people. That was what we were told this morning that they expected and they could handle. But the buses still keep coming. It looks like a metro bus past those red doors just dropped off dozens of people. We have seen metro buses, school buses, dump trucks, you name it. People walking in on foot. Just last hour, we showed you the interstate on the backside of the convention center. They're now using that as a helicopter landing pad to bring the people in. As they walk in the doors, you can see what they are getting. This pile of clothes here. Volunteers, absolutely amazing. They've been bringing diapers and formulas and cups and plates and clothes and underwear, everything that families have had to leave behind in their homes, those homes that they may never see again. It is a bit of a different scene than this morning. When we first got here, they were at half capacity. People were smiling and happy and everybody was getting a hot meal. But now things are getting a little bit tense. You can hear they're trying to keep them calm. We've seen a little bit of fighting here, not much, but it's the Red Cross who greets them. They're there at this table. They're registering. They're taking anyone in, anyone who needs a spot here, no matter the capacity. You mentioned a guest, Sean. It's David Brady. He's joining us from the Red Cross now. What are you experiencing here? More people than you thought you'd have throughout Harvey are already here.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of people. And this has been devastating for people. And, the Red Cross responds to disasters every single day in this country. But a disaster of this magnitude is something that really requires us to rally our troops. And I'm so proud to be involved with the Red Cross and a part of this team and of our staff and our volunteers. But while there's so many people trying to get here, we are doing everything we can, and we will accept everyone who comes to this shelter. We're not turning anybody away.
But you're looking for another location, another mega shelter where you can have more people. Are you able to staff it? If the city opens up someplace else, can you guys get there, and how long will it take?
Well, we've got a great partnership with the City of Houston and Mayor Turner, a great partnership with Harris County and Judge Ed Emmett, and we are working with them on all the shelters. This is a mega shelter, but we've got dozens of shelters. We'll be up close to 100 shelters very quickly. And we work closely with the judge and the mayor on where those are going to be, what they need, and they at least give us a little bit of time to get set up, because we don't want our guests, these Houstonians who have been so devastated by this flood, to show up and not have someone welcome them, put a Red Cross blanket around them, and comfort them and help them get through this.
Sean has a couple questions for you, David.
Yeah, hey, Caroline, if I can throw this, David, I think you can hear me. First of all, thoughts and prayers. You're doing God's work there. I sent a donation. It's en route to Samaritan's Purse, Red Cross. You guys are all hands on deck now. I want to follow up on Caroline's question, though. This is important. Will there be room for every person that's going to need shelter from the area, A? And we watched what happened with Katrina. I reported on Katrina. Our food and water and medicine and supplies and security and cots and blankets, will they be, are there enough now available vis-a-vis your organization, other organizations, the federal government, state and local governments? Will you have everything you need so we don't repeat some of the mistakes in the past?
Yeah, well, what I can talk about is what's going on right now, Sean. I appreciate you asking that question. I can tell you that the Red Cross nationally in Washington, D.C. is rallying around and getting corporations to support us, getting food donated, getting medical supplies donated, getting the finances that are so desperately needed donated as well. And everyone, including the mayor and the Harris County judge, are all working on that challenge right now. Right now, everything is going as we hope it would in this very almost impossible task to take on. Everything is going as we hope it would, and we're working hard to make sure that we stay on that path and track.
Yeah. All right. Well, David, look, if people can donate to you, Samaritan's Purse, all these good organizations, these people desperately need the help, and we've got to make sure we stay on government officials to make sure they are doing their part. This is a time, all hands on deck, and so many people are impacted. And this is only the beginning. This is rescue, then rescue recovery, and the rebuilding process is going to take a lot of time. So we wish you all the best in your efforts. It's going to be ongoing, and thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. Caroline, thank you. Joining us now with more is Fox News contributor, editor-in-chief, Life Zet. Laura Ingraham is with us. Laura, welcome to the program. Thank you for being here. You know, one of the things as I watched all weekend, I think one of the more amazing things is how everybody came together. Neighbor helping neighbor, local government, federal government. It seemed like everybody got the message. We're on the same page. Otherwise, this could have been a catastrophe that we couldn't even describe. It would be indescribable. I mean, the costs now are prohibitive in terms of what we're talking.
Oh, yeah. Sean, to think that the FEMA director has only been in place since June. He was nominated in April, only been in place for a few months, and he's tasked with managing one of the worst natural disasters, if not ultimately the worst, that our country has ever seen. I mean, so the preparations were underway. I happened to be in Corpus Christi on Wednesday night, and when I was there, people weren't all that, you know, exercised about the storm. They thought it was going to be a bad storm. They hoped it would, you know, not be as bad. But people were very calmly going about the process of preparing, and there wasn't a lot of there wasn't a lot of politics involved. It was just, we have a job to do, and we're going to do it. And from Greg Abbott, the governor, to Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor, to the coordination with Homeland Security, FEMA's under Homeland Security, local officials, all the volunteers from churches, synagogues, mosques from all over the country who are pouring in. That really does remind you of the best of this country. We're self-sufficient, except sometimes we need help. We're independent, but sometimes we need a helping hand from a neighbor, and the government were appropriate, and this is a time where we need a coordinated government. And Sean, we need all the high-placed officials, not only nominated, but confirmed at Homeland Security, at all our major departments. We have crises all over, you know, our executive departments of staffing right now. And this reminds us all over again why we need more than acting directors or deputy directors. We need everybody in place.
And it's ridiculous how long it's taken, and we've discussed that in the past. Now it shows why this is important and why the Senate needs to do their job of confirmation. I want to play for you a montage of some of the incendiary comments. We're literally Friday night, a night that all of America is going to be watching television. The media is claiming Donald Trump is hiding all of his big pardon to Joe Arpaio. And I just went through the FALN, terrorists given pardons by Bill Clinton, Mark Rich, obviously drug dealers by Barack Obama. And I'm thinking, here's a guy that served in law enforcement 50 years. The whole country's going to see it. The media acts like it was a Friday dump, which Clinton and Obama were masters at. And watch, we're literally an hour and a half away from the biggest hurricane that they've ever seen and the most rain they've ever seen in the area. And watch how insane the media in this country is. And you can't make this up. Watch this.
Somewhat under the cover of the first natural disaster of his presidency, a Category 4 hurricane making landfall in the United States. The president and this White House are out tonight with several controversial bits of news.
The White House says the president is focused on the storm, but overnight it made news on a number of fronts, including on some controversial issues.
Maybe he can't stand not being the lead story.
Yeah, I think he didn't want to be usurped by Hurricane Harvey. He needs to have his name in the news cycle.
Well, you like to get lectured by Lion Brian Williams about dead bodies floating outside of the Ritz where there's no water. We're going to get lectures from him about honesty.
Well, I think it's funny. Yeah, Sean, the idea that Donald Trump has to wait until a hurricane to do something that the media will find offensive is just a total knee slapper. I mean, Donald Trump sneezes the wrong way and the media are all over it. There was actually a chyron today on another cable channel that said something like, Trump decides to go to Texas despite possible disruption. A few days ago, they were claiming somehow claiming, even though he was all over the issue and the emergency, that he wasn't engaged enough. Now he's going, and they're criticizing him for that. So the man cannot win, no matter what he does. This is being handled as well as a cataclysmic event such as this can be handled. I really don't know what else could be done at this point, given the enormity of the problem. But the idea that they're complaining about the Arpaio pardon taking place when the president clearly said he was going to pardon them. I mean, would it have been better for the media if he pardoned them next week? Would they have been more judicious in their analysis? I don't think so.
We've got videotape of FALN members making bombs. They killed people, and Clinton pardoned them. We need lectures from them like we need a hole in the head. Now, there was more violence. There was more violence in Berkeley, California this weekend. Let's roll some tape. Antifa protesters. And even the Washington Post, as abusively biased as they are, noted this for what it was. They said right wing. It's a bit of a pejorative, but I got to give them a little credit that they pointed out that they were peaceful protesters. What are we learning about this group Antifa, the violence they're involved in, and what they're trying to stir up in the country?
Yeah, this is pernicious, Sean. This Antifa group is designed and carries out one agenda. That is to terrorize Americans with whom they disagree, terrorize them away from speaking out and exercising their free speech rights. They want to terrorize communities in which they operate. That's what they did in Berkeley.
When they have helmets and sticks.
The police didn't do enough either.
Well, I mean, that's the same thing, you know, and I praise the Boston protesters. They were peaceful. When a couple tried to turn on some Trump supporters, the overwhelming 99% said knock it off, no violence. They were protesting against racism and bigotry. I applaud them. And we all stand against that.
The peaceful left, the peaceful left has to shut this down because it's going to really hurt. It's going to really hurt the cause of, you know, whatever the cause of the day is of the left. It's going to hurt them. Well, it's going to hurt them a lot. And so Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all of these individuals who spend all their time maligning conservatives as KKK or, you know, Nazi, they need to be called on what is happening across this country. The Antifa crowd is vicious, vile. They're masked, just like the KKK is, except there are more of them. Antifa is masked and marauding, and apparently they're even intimidating some police officers, which happened in Berkeley. Good police, but they're even intimidating them. So these politicians have to be called on this, just like they're called on the KKK stuff, call on the Antifa. Anyone in a mask should not be allowed in a protest. If you're in a mask,
and a helmet,
then you're up to no good.
A mask, a helmet, and I see body armor almost on some of these people. All right, Laura, we got to roll. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
All right, good to see you, Sean.
Coming up, we're going to have more reaction to this violent Antifa counter-protest going after conservatives in Berkeley, California over the weekend. First, we'll also have more on the historic flooding in Texas. Did you know that Texas has a $10 billion, no pun, rainy day fund, which will go a long way to helping those people that did not have insurance and need to rebuild? We'll check in with the Energy Secretary and former Texas Governor Rick Perry. He'll be here, and Geraldo, and much more straight ahead.
We've still got people who are trapped in floodwaters. We have to get those people out as soon as possible.
I heard that there could be some more 3 or 4 feet of water coming, so I decided to leave.
We'll rebuild. It's going to take time. But I think everybody will help everybody.
To the people of Texas and Louisiana, we are 100% with you.